Demon Phil here with another hell of a show, and we'll get started with this here very shortly. First of all, let me know you can see and hear me, and then we will get going from there. And also, let's get those shares going. Make sure we got enough people that are going to be paying attention to this one. If you're a fan of horror, you need to be here tonight. If you know people who are fans of horror, they need to be here tonight. Trust me. We got some amazing stuff we're going to be going over on this, and we'll get going here very shortly with that. And first up tonight, we already have Dan's in here. What's up, buddy? Appreciate you being here. And let's see. And there is my girl. All good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Dan, that kiss was for her, not for you. Just going to go ahead and put that out there. Don't want you confused on that one. You have my signature. You don't get the kiss. All right, we'll give this about one more minute. Make sure everything's going well on this end because everything looks like it's set up over here. And then we will go ahead and get started. Hope everyone had a great day today. It was very productive in what they're doing. Wash your damn hands because you got to nowadays. I mean, why weren't you before in the first place? Not just nowadays, but anytime. Yes, Dan, really. All right, so we'll make this official. This is Demon Phil's hell of a show on Thursday night. And we're going to go ahead and get started with this. First and foremost, we always start off with the sponsors, and we're going to start off with that first. So first off, we do have Totally Rad Comics, which is Jim E. Noble, which tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central, if I'm not mistaken, he will be launching his new Kickstarter that'll be running for 30 days on there, which consists of the Totally Rad Life of Violet #4, Evil Rad, and Neon, the First Victim. So it's going to be a triple threat that's going to be on there on one Kickstarter. Do not miss out on that. Codex Entertainment, which is Luis Torres. He doesn't currently have anything going with Codex right now, but knowing Luis and seeing some of the things in progress, it looks like the beginning of the year is probably going to be the next time he'll run something up there. Do not miss out on his project coming out there. 183 Degree Studio, which is Kara Nicole, Alfred Trujillo. They recently finished up with the Cos Lingerie calendar and did very well with it. It is on Indiegogo in demand right now. If you missed out on it, go jump on that one. And Fire Bitch 2 should be releasing sometime very soon. I am just waiting for the word on that one, and you will hear it from my lips to your ears. And Mike is here tonight. Appreciate you being here, Mike. And we've also got Naughty Fairies, which is Wendy Steen Shaner. Right now, there is nothing in the pipeline for Wendy because they just finished up with the Comic Unity Online Comic-Con. Did very well with it, and I am anxiously looking forward to the spoils from that one. So we definitely want to look forward to that. Nine Realms Publishing. Nine Realms Publishing has got Elysian Fields Pyramid Gambit currently on Indiegogo, and soon to be as in next month, on Kickstarter as well. So we're going to be running a separate campaign on Kickstarter for the same stuff, sort of. We'll be explaining more about that as we go along. It is still in the works. And as Dan went ahead and brought up here, thank you, Dan. The Support Our Troops tier package is the best and most popular one on there, and it also gives back to the troops. If you want to know more about this, look on my page, look on Michael Odin's page, and you'll find out more about that, or reach out to me. I will give you all the information you could possibly want on there. We've also got Belial 2. Chuck Pino and Sean Barbour launched Belial 2 on Tuesday, and they're still surviving, believe it or not, after the hot sauce incident that happened on the launch party in the evening. They launched in the morning, but they did a hot sauce party in the evening. If you missed that, go to my page, look for that interview, and don't be drinking anything or eating anything while you're doing that because you won't be able to control the laughter, I guarantee you. Then lastly, we have got Lone Wolf Comics has got Night Wolf trade paperback will be coming out on the 19th of this month, which is this coming Monday. So do not miss out on that one. Is coming out on Kickstarter. If you're looking for a howling good book, Night Wolf trade paperback is where you want to go. All right, so we have also got, let me see, who else jumped in here? Here we go. Magi Jake Lindsay is in here. Thank you for being here. And yes, Dan, that is correct. We need extra people for that support our troops. Absolutely. All right. So without further ado, we're up to that point of you're tired of looking at my ugly mug on here. We're going to go ahead and brighten this up just a little bit by bringing my guest out here. We are talking about horror because we are in Halloween month. So in doing so, it kind of was brought to my attention through things that I was looking at that I decided I'd reach out to this particular guy, and he brought his partner on here as well. That we're going to talk about some horror comics and artwork and some other ventures. So without further ado, let me introduce Christian and Kiyarn.
Hello.
Good evening,
guys. Appreciate y'all being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Especially you, Kiyarn, because I know it's like, what, 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that over there?
It is, yeah, stupid o'clock in the morning, yeah.
That is dedication right there, I'm telling you. Now, before we get fully started into all this, what I'd like to go ahead and do is if anybody in the audience doesn't know who you are, I want to start off with Christian, and if you'll say who you are, what you do, and where to find you.
I'm Christian DiBari. I am a comic book artist. I mostly do horror. You can find my stuff from Top Cow, Image Comics, Magdalena. I've done stuff like Krampus that was released through Legendary, to name a few. I also did a short for the very last Clive Barker's Hellraiser anthology, the second volume. I think that came out in 2017, and that was it. They don't do them anymore, which is sad. You can find me on Twitter at Chris DiBari, or you can find me on Instagram, Christian_DiBari. And yeah, that's my story.
Very cool. And Kiyarn, what about you?
A lot shorter list than Christian's, really, but it's pretty much just trying to write comics, and that's about it, to be honest. Just been stuff with Christian and that, but yeah, really not much to brag about for me on that side of things.
We're going to work on increasing those bragging rights hopefully after the show is over with, because people are going to get to know what you do and get excited about that. So first off, that I would like to go ahead and ask, and Magi, are you looking over my shoulder at my notes? Because I think we're at that point already. Out of all the Halloween TV specials, which one is your favorite? This is partly a question that I have here. So out of all the Halloween TV specials, which one is your favorite?
Ooh.
I think that, well, going way back for me, I think it might have been The Simpsons, like the beginning ones, like the first, like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 that they did. I kind of lost track or didn't really watch after, but I remember those always being really funny and you know, good shout outs to different horror movies and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't remember many other shows that I paid attention to with a horror special, though, other than that.
I was literally going to say the same thing. I think like the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. I watched one the other day, and it was the one where they take the piss out of what is it? Strangers on a Train. And that was the one that just cracked me up, because it was just there's like one bit when in the original film he talks about, what we can do is we can fill each other's person cross. And he says the phrase crisscross about 4 or 5 times in a row, and the Simpsons have him just keep saying it. I just remember it just really cracking me up, and like no reason whatsoever.
Nice. Yeah. When it was real good, it was real good. Yeah. I haven't watched in a very long time, but I remember it being like, out of all those, probably it. I don't recall any other shows that I've watched that have any kind of Halloween special offhand. Because most
I think Community kind of had a good one. That one where it was like, what was it? It was like zombie themed, but it was all like infected meat or something at a Halloween party or something really weird like that. That was good.
Yeah, I may have seen that one. I'm just kind of drawing a blank on it. But The Simpsons is the first thing that pops into mind, because those were always really legendary of like how well done they were every single time. So yeah, I think that's about it for me.
Now, as far as because we're going to switch gears, going from TV shows to movies, what is one? I know we're going to make this a hard question. One movie that has really stuck out to you horror wise, that's just like your pinnacle horror movie.
Ooh.
Geez, what it really stuck out, like meaning like I can't like get it out of my head type of thing, or
Probably something that just had just that much impact on you, where you're like, okay, I just can't stop thinking about this particular one.
for me, right offhand, I would say Jacob's Ladder. Ever since I started in the theater in the '90s, in the early '90s, I went in. It was like real empty theater. Like in the early '90s, horror was dead. Like it was dead. Like nobody cared, and it lasted until the Scream movies came out in the late '90s. But like, yeah, I remember going in, and there was like maybe 5 people in this theater. It was like me and my friend, and 5 other people, and I kind of didn't know what to expect because I remember just a poster and a quick commercial on TV, and there was no internet, so there was no way to know what the hell it was actually about. It just looked really creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since I walked out of that theater, it was like something that stuck with me for a very long time. It still fascinates me when I think about it. There's a lot of stuff that was cut from the original film that was like way too like brutal, grotesque. Excuse me. So, and I remember when I went home and going to sleep, because I was a teenager at the time. I think I had problems sleeping for like a week or so because it was just, the imagery was so nightmarish, like you'd never seen before, and it definitely was impactful. It definitely messed me up.
Oh yeah, I can see that too.
See, I think for me, it's got to be everyone's kind of favorite as well. The Thing.
Oh yeah.
I can never let go of that film ever. It's just everything about it is perfect. Just I don't know. I think what it is though is that I rewatched it in the cinema only a few months ago, and it was actually it sort of stood up still. But I think it's because it's all that prosthetic stuff. Just none of that will age for me. And every time you watch it, you're just like, oh, it's just every line's like a classic line and all that sort of stuff. I think either that, like The Thing, or as Christian said, yeah, Jacob's Ladder is just like ridiculously dark and perfect horror film.
Yeah. It's funny. The Thing is, we saw me and my wife saw it like a few years ago, screening downtown, and it was like full crowd, like tons of people, but there was like a group behind us, a couple people behind us was like laughing at everything. And I remember pissing me off so bad because I was like, what is so funny? Like, there's nothing like, everything you're laughing at is not funny. Like, you're doing this for attention. I remember it like making me upset because I was like, man, this movie is such a classic. How dare you come here and disrespect this shit? That's how I felt anyway. But yeah, I love that movie.
Well, we're a different age group, so whenever we get in there, it's almost the get off my lawn scenario whenever we're watching a movie like that, because that's our growing up in that. So whenever someone comes in and disrespects it, then we get very defensive on that.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm very defensive, I guess, about older horror movies from like the 70s, the 80s. There's people that sometimes they don't get it. I don't know if they're not paying attention, because I'll talk sometimes once in a while on social media. I don't do it much anymore because I'm sick of arguing with people. But like once in a while, I'll actually like recommend something like, I really love this movie. It's a classic, blah, 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 and they'll watch it and then they'll just, oh, the movie's really shit. They'll just start ripping. And I'm just like, oh, come on, and why did this happen? And why did this have to happen? That kind of thing. And I'm like, you could sit here and nitpick it all you want. But at the end of the day, it was like, this was practical effects. This was like, everything was shot on camera and like, it was brand new for the time. You guys are spoiled because you got CGI everything, So whatever. I don't know.
We have a question out here, and I'm gonna go ahead and say right now, go ahead on a limb and say the answer is yes to this one. But I'm gonna bring this out for y'all to see what you say. Is Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie?
Halloween movie.
Kids Halloween movie.
Yeah, like I saw it in the theater once a long time ago, and I remember it just being, to me, like Karen says, is like it's kids Halloween movie. It's not.
I haven't seen it since it came out, so yeah, I really can't remember much about it. I think it's a kids Halloween movie because I probably watched it at Halloween as a kid. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
I think it belongs in both of them on there. And the reason I say that is because, and this is going to show how old I am, but back whenever I worked at Blockbuster Video and was managing there, we had it in both sections. So it just depended upon which section got it first or which one was low. And we go ahead and just kind of split it around there. But yeah, it was both in the Halloween and the Christmas.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no, that works too. But then there's also the whole genre of like, or subgenre of like the Christmas horror movies, right? So it's kind of crazy because like not until sort of recently I've kind of like embraced a lot of those, and like I'll try to watch a bunch in, like together. I'll start maybe a little light, with Gremlins or something, and then I'll kind of like, go to like Krampus, and then I'll go to like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and like all the crazy exploitation grindhouse ones, and they just get more and more ridiculous, and by the end you feel like, I don't know, worn out of Christmas, and you kind of understand. It's like, well, I don't know.
There's only like one Christmas film I have to watch every year is Scrooged, and that's it. That's the only one to me that matters.
That's a great one, though. Yeah, that's a great movie.
You can't go wrong with Bill Murray. I mean, come on.
No, never. It's a classic. It's always going to be a classic. He's absolutely right. And that kind of that one kind of I think that one kind of teeters lightly on horror. Just a little.
It's got some pretty like dark moments in it. There's like the bit when his dead boss shows up and he like shoots him with a gun a bunch of times, and a mouse comes out of his head and stuff. It's like, and the Grim Reaper as well. The Grim Reaper is like really dark.
Yeah, that is true. I forgot about the dead boss, and I remember just now thinking about like how his face looked, and like it was all like rotted, and
he like holds him through the window and drops him out of a building.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Pretty great. But yeah, it's interesting that whole subgenre of horror or Christmas horror.
Now, in going with the horror theme and everything, of course, we've got the movies, got TV shows and stuff, but we've also got comics, and that's where I want to kind of bring up and get to know you a little bit more on this, because you both work within this quite a bit. So what I'd like to start off with is asking the one question is, tell me what your origin story is in getting into the comic industry.
Oh, I'll try to cut this one down as much as possible. That's an odd one to begin with, but in the late 90s, I moved from Boston to New York City. I had been going back and forth and meeting with editors at Marvel DC, and eventually they both hired me to do rushed work. This is at a time when the industry was literally in the toilet. Things were not good. And the only thing available was rushed work for someone new. So it was, rushed 12 pages in 5 days for issue 34 of Deadpool. It was a nightmare. I didn't sleep. It was just insane. And the other was a rushed pencil and inked cover for Robin 75 or something like that. And I don't know. I kind of got like, reality check really quick, and I abruptly looked into, other ways to make money with art. So I went into toy design, worked for Hasbro, worked for a company called Art Asylum, and did that for a bunch of years, and then moved on to storyboards and animation. I worked on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated series in 2005, some music videos, things like that. And then I decided towards the end of that year that I wanted to get back into comics, but I wanted to only do horror because I didn't care generally about jumping into trying to do superheroes anymore. I always had these ideas to do horror comics and whatever. So 2005, I did a co-create our own series called The Hunger. And you know, it was tough. It was not easy. We kind of did what we could, and eventually, you know, we put out, I think, like 7 issues worth, and that was that. From there, I kind of continued to bounce around a little bit, doing like illustration work and doing comic work. But yeah, I think in 2009, I got what I thought was a bigger break in comics. Did the Warriors comic. It was an adaptation of the movie, and it was exciting for me because I was a huge fan of that. And it kind of turned out to be a huge nightmare. So there was a number of problems, non-payments, and things were looking really dark. I wasn't sure if I was going to continue on until randomly, a year after, I got hired to do a horror series from Top Cow called Cutter. And from there on out, I was just pushing, to put out more stuff, and kept getting put on more and more horror comics, through the years. Like I mentioned before, Krampus was a pretty big one for me. That was a lot of fun. House of Waxwork from Waxwork Records. I have actually a new issue coming out very soon. I think maybe this month or next month. And yeah, it's been a weird road, but yeah. That's my story.
And, Kiyarn, what about you? What's been your origin story getting into the industry?
This kind of is the origin story. You're watching it right now. I've done a couple of comics in the past, but that was like just trying to kind of put your foot in the door and things like just running Kickstarters and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, like, not that they failed or anything like that. It was fun to do, but this is the kind of the first actually like let's do it properly kind of thing. And it's going pretty well for a first attempt, to be fair.
Yeah.
Now, you're talking about what you've got going on Kickstarter right now. What do you have going right now? What's current?
Well, what with the techno horror stuff?
Yes.
Well, I mean, Christian, you're probably.
Oh yeah. Sorry, we haven't really got into that. I just thought about that. I was like, oh yeah, duh. So techno horror. Techno horror is, I mentioned earlier before you went live, is that we started this idea like late last year, right? Was that it?
Yeah, right about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we started it, and it was originally kind of something that we were just like, we're just gonna do short stories and like art. I'm just gonna do like, experimental horror short stories, whatever. And the thing is that as soon as early in this year, all the COVID stuff happened and everything literally shut down. It was kind of like, it was sort of one of those situations like, well, what do we do? It's like, let's just keep making, more and just keep going, more ideas and whatever.
Keep ourselves sane whilst doing it.
Yeah, I think it really, honestly, I think it really helped a lot because, for me, it was like I was freaking out about not like having anything to do, and this was keeping me busy. Like it was like every time I was like, okay, what's the next story? What's the next story? And he's written tons of them, and it was lots to go through. And sometimes one of my favorite aspects of it is that we will sometimes like have like an idea, either he does or I do, like, and we'll kind of talk about it and like, well, what about this? And then Simon, our colorist, jumps in. It's like, well, he'll throw ideas. We kind of just mash it all together and do it. And
it's the biggest kind of it's a real big proper like group collaborative thing, literally at every stage of the way though as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, like the artwork side of stuff, like you draw up the thumbnails and stuff, and then we kind of pitch in our ideas, and then when it comes to like the coloring, we've all got our ideas about stuff, and then even when it comes down to like the actual like lettering kind of things, people are throwing stuff in. So I think every step of the way isn't just like, oh, that's your step, that's mine step, that's his step. It's like everyone kind of does sort of step in and get involved in every aspect of it.
Yeah. It's a really, I think it's a really solid process from like the starting point to finish, and it's always a treat too when I'm like, I'm working on these either illustrations, like even randomly. Sometimes it'd be like, I just rewatched Event Horizon, right, with Sam Neill, and I'm like, oh man, really love this movie still. It's a lot of fun, and I decided out of blue, I'm like, I'm just going to do a piece that's tribute to it. And then these guys are like, well, why don't we make it into like a 2-page short, and then I'll do like a page 1 to the piece that I did, and it's like a couple panels, and he'll write something, and then again, Simon will add his touch to it and everything. And it's wild because I don't think we've ever run into a problem where it's like we hit a wall, like, oh man, I don't know what to do here. Like, I don't know what, this is driving me crazy, Yeah,
I think that's the thing. Like where a lot of projects would hit a wall, you kind of expect one person to sort of deal with it, but we've got 3 people attacking any wall that we might encounter from 3 different perspectives. I think that's what kind of keeps it greased and keeps it moving, essentially, is just that anytime there's like a slight hiccup, we can kind of just sort it out because we've all got different ways of sort of approaching it, essentially.
Right. And it's always something completely different too, which, a friend of mine commented about. He said, I love how you guys are able to have a beginning and sort of a middle and an end all at once within 4 or 5 pages. He's like, that's not an easy thing to pull off. And I didn't think about it at all. I was like, oh, I guess not. I never really thought about it that way. Like, even one of the earlier stories that we did, I originally had the whole thing in my head visually. So I thumbnailed it out, I drew it out, and threw it to these guys. And you wrote a great script to it, and Simon killed on the colors even more than I would ever imagine. So it was kind of one of those things. Is like, wow, like just that process of even that, like, it was just kind of amazing to me that we could pull that off without a problem. Without anything like, oh, this is not right. We might have to redo all this, and none of that. So, the other thing is we're not restricted to anything either. So it's kind of great because we're just making this, creating it, and doing it because we want to. We love it. But we also recently got a publishing deal to put out a full volume 1. Early next year. It'll come out through Scout Comics. Black Caravan is their horror label. So, the Patreon is still active up until, I think, is it November? We're pausing.
I think it's next month because we've got to pause. You can, on Patreon, you can pause it. So we've had to pause. We're going to pause it next month with one more short left, and then just get steaming ahead on the other book, essentially, just to push that release date a bit closer.
Right. Yeah, because we have to wrap up on a Lovecraft graphic novel that we have that will also be coming out next March, I believe. So there's we have to we have to pause on Techno Horror for a bit. I also have a lot of work for hire gigs that I'm contracted to do. So it's going to make it more difficult. So we're going to pause it for a bit. We're going to get some stuff done on the other book, and then all the full collection of volume 1 for Technohorror will be out next year. And it's definitely weird. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff in there. There's like stuff for, I think, every kind of horror fan, maybe.
Maybe. I think we've covered, like, because I've got a lot of like already stories like pre-written. I think I counted at least like 14 or 15 pre-written ones, and it's starting to get a bit harder to think of new genres and things to mix up and stuff. I mean, I know I will get it done and then can get it done, but it's just like now I'm starting to go like, oh, we haven't done this yet, and maybe I should put it with this, and not like just trying to figure out new stuff, which is always kind of fun as well, especially when you've got Christian and Simon as well throwing in ideas which I wouldn't have never have thought of in a million years, kind of thing. But so there's definitely loads of room for scope, and like every story so far, because I laid it out all the pages and looked at it. It just look at a visual aspect, it's super varied. Like there's dark stuff, there's really bright, pretty stuff, there's really obscure color scheme stuff, and that it just looks really, as a book, it's going to look really interesting, and I'm super keen to see what that looks like.
Yeah, it's definitely it's going to have like a very interesting reaction, I think, because it's different. It's just very different. I mean, there's some stories that are just straight up experimental in terms of what my approach was, and then Simon would go on top of that and also do something very experimental with the colors. So it all kind of works out. And there's also there's different kinds of like genre stuff that we blended in there. There's like a Western zombie story. There's a space, story, like a sci-fi story.
Medieval exorcism.
Yeah, I mean that's one of my favorites that I got to work on. It was because I'm a huge my all-time favorite horror movie is The Exorcist. So, I'm obsessed with like a lot of like possession themed stuff, and I've always wanted to do a comic that was like possession themed. So this was kind of for me like a real big treat, because I finally got to do that a little bit. Again, it's like a 4 or 5 pager, but it was like moments that I was like really excited to illustrate, and I especially love the ending of that one. It cracks me up every time I look at it. But but it's like, that's the other thing too. There's also a little dark humor in it, like in some of the stories. I think there's like different elements.
Especially the next one we've got, the last one we do before we pause it for a bit, is the most like shameless nod to the Burbs I've ever seen.
Yes. Yeah. If you're a fan of the Tom Hanks movie, The Burbs, you would probably like this last story a lot, because I love that movie. I remember seeing it in the theater, and I still love that movie. Like, it's
great film.
It's great. Yeah, it's so, in my opinion, it's always been super underrated. I think for its time, nobody was maybe ready for such a weird blend of horror and comedy that way, because of what the subject matter is, and I do believe it was a PG rated movie. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it's PG, because there's like there's no real harsh language, but there's a couple scenes here and there that are like super dark. And especially when you get to the end of the movie and when they reveal what's been going on, it was like, wow. Like, I didn't, I think everyone in the audience got quiet, because they're like, oh, I loved it, but, but yeah. So Technohorror is kind of like this massive blend of different ideas and different things that we been working really hard on. And it's, something that we're very proud of, and we will continue to do it. Patreon is really where it's at for if you want to see it happen, because we don't just post the artwork and that's it. We also have behind the scenes stuff, from script to showing my pencils early stages, some of the inks in process, and then even putting together animated GIFs to show like the start to finish process of it. And if we can get Simon to actually record himself coloring,
he's not successfully done one of those yet.
I know, it drives me nuts because it's like, oh my god! Like I feel like anybody would love to just watch that process because the way he handles the colors and how
I think there's a little bit of him that doesn't want to give that process away for free as well.
Well, that's smart. You could censor everything. You could just have like a bunch of black boxes everywhere. You just see like little bits of what he's doing. It would just drive me nuts. But I mean, either way, it's like maybe even like little clips. Hopefully, we'll get him to do that. But we also offer high res downloads of prints. That Simon and I have done even before Technohorror started. There's tons. I mean, and that's kind of the birth of it, was that me and Simon every year, especially towards Halloween, would do these horror jams, and I would just draw these pieces. It could be based on a movie, it could horror movie or video game, whatever. The most popular one is probably Resident Evil 2, the stuff that we did that's themed on Resident Evil 2, like the monsters and stuff. And, and he had a point one day. He was like, why don't we make a Patreon and people can download the high res file for like a couple bucks. And I was like, oh yeah. But then it expanded after we initially finished working on the Lovecraft graphic novel together here, because it was like, why don't we just team up and do this as a group and make short stories and illustrations and things like that, and I remember
it happened really quickly. We were literally just chatting, going, we should do this. And it was literally, I think that evening we were like, okay, so we're doing this now. And I'm like, gosh, okay.
It was fast. It was definitely fast, but I think we handled it well because we also gave ourselves a bit of time, like a couple months, to announce what it was, and it was we're going to launch. And initially, I think we launched in January or something like that.
I think it's something like that, yeah.
So we launched in January, but we had little teaser clips, little videos that this guy over here puts together, and I'm telling you, they're amazing. Like, they're all really, really, really great. Music, editing, everything. It's real quick to the point, but it's real grabby. So it's kind of like a nice little trailer. He makes like these little trailers for almost each story.
I think I've done one for every one, but about one maybe, I think, or two, or something like that.
Yeah, they're always, every time I've posted them, I always get reactions from people like, wow, that was crazy. Just, and it's cool. I mean, we're still, I think we still have a small audience, but hopefully once the printed edition hits next year, that it'll expand on that, and, people will, be excited. They'll want to join up on the Patreon and see more process and get some downloads and stuff like that, and go from there. We might also probably add another tier for stuff that's actually like printed, like prints, hard stuff like that. So, but that's a little
thing to kind of bring that digital thing, because I think that's what puts a lot of people off nowadays with Patreon in particular, is that it's not actual physical rewards. And with comic book fans, you especially, like, there's more people in the comic book world that want to read a book that they can hold and so forth. So I think stuff like that would definitely help at some point. Yeah,
it's not easy. It's a learning experience, but like I'm dedicated with it. We all are, I believe. And I think I don't know a rough number off the top of my head, but I know that we have a pretty decent page count for volume 1, right?
I think so. Yeah, it's off the top of my head, I can't think what it is.
I think it's isn't it over 50 at least? It's got to be
Oh,
with
it's
illustrations.
yeah. No, it's like it's 80 or 90, I think.
Really?
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh man, I thought it was like over like 50 something or whatever. And I'm sitting here like, I'm sitting here like, yeah, 50 something, big number. And then he's like, no, it's more like 1,000. So no, that it's even better. But yeah. So hopefully more people will jump on board next year when the actual collected edition hits shelves and everything like that.
So, in speaking about the art and everything, I was going to kind of show off some pieces while we're talking as well to kind of show them, what art is available.
Oh yeah.
Not necessarily just on this particular project, but some of the stuff you've done. So, I'm just going to go through a few pieces that I had picked out of here.
All right.
And I want to ask you while we're going through. I mean, do you use it? What's your medium that you use? Is it digital, or do you actually do pencils and inks, or how do you do it?
I'm all traditional. Like yeah, I think the most digital I ever used was when I do like halftone, like zipatone effects here and there, but that's very, very, very like few times nowadays because I'm lazy. No, I just can't really I can't really noodle the same way anymore. Oh, yeah, that one's from a few years ago. I think that was like 2015. That's all ink wash. Yeah, that one. It's sometimes I like to. I think from remembering correctly, um, dark fantasy stuff is pretty cool. So sometimes I'll dive into that. Oh, that's one from also from me and Simon. That that was on a small little piece of Bristol paper that I did, and that's actually the reason why we got hired to do that Hellraiser story. When we posted that, the editor saw it and was like, "Hey, it was pretty wild." Oh yeah, that is a panel crop from a comic that I did with the singer of I don't know if you know this metal band Carnifex.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Scotty and Lewis. Yeah, that's his book, Death Dreamer, and yeah, that's from one of the panels on it. I feel really bad because COVID screwed over so many things. Like we were working on volume 2, and then his tours all got canceled. So once that happened, he was like, "I'm gonna have to put this on pause, man. I'm really sorry." But I was like, "No, I understand. He's a great guy, and we keep up as much as possible. We have great phone conversations, but and that was a really fun crime horror book. It was very David. What's his name? Fincher. David Fincher, like Seven. Like that kind of stuff. Real dark. Just teetering on the horror edge of things. Yeah, that was a cool book. Oh, that one. I think that one's one of the characters from Dungeons and Dragons. A reimagining. I can't remember his name. He's like that horn on the side of his head or whatever. But I'm drawing a blank on his name. I was just messing around one day on my sketch pad. Oh, and that's a panel from Rad Wraith. The book I mentioned earlier, where we did have publishing talks, but it was the content was a little too much, I suppose, at the time. So who knows? But it's still a fun book, and
I love this. This one is one that actually it hit me pretty hard because I love the way that it's set up on there, just the way that it gives you the perspective, and then the shadow that's on there. It's not just, you can see it comes off of him. It's not that you just drew in a specter on there or whatever. It actually has where it's his shadow and it evolves into this thing. And I love how well that was done.
Oh, thanks, man. I mean, that whole book, I stand by it because it's so much fun, and it was like so many things that I got to mess around with and just have fun. I also drew way cartoonier. Like it looks way cartoonier than a lot of the stuff, because I felt like the one thing that could really mess with people is that you got these really cute kind of cartoony looking characters, and then there's really brutal shit happening. It's just like the killings and stuff are just like really messed up. And it's I think issue 2, Rad Wraith jumps up. There's a guy skating away. He like stole some kids like French fries, and he like skates up beside him and then goes, "Hey," and shows him the nail. He's like, "Remember this?" And flicks the nail, and it hits the guy's wheel on his board. The guy goes flying up in the air. He jumps up and lands on his back and uses him as a skateboard, like grinding his face and everything into the ground. And I'm sitting there drawing this, and I'm laughing because I'm thinking in my mind like a combination of Dead Alive, like Peter Jackson's old movie, and Evil Dead, and all the shit that I grew up watching. That was the violence was so over the top. It was crazy. The gore was
finally paying off now.
Yeah, that's just it just comes off naturally. Oh man, yeah, I'm a huge Transformers fan. So anytime I get a commission, which that was one of them, I was like, oh yeah, fuck yeah. I was excited. And behind me, I have like these shelves that are full of these things, which is kind of a problem, I think. My kids love them, but it's like, I'm running out of room here, and they're just like, they're all one day going to just collapse and land on me and kill me. So that's a way to go. But man, I love classic Transformers, and yeah. Oh, Man-Bat. That was me and Simon's version of Man-Bat. I pretty much said it when I posted. I was like, these are things that DC would never do. Like, they would never let us do this. This is like way too like horror. But again, we did it. It was a small little piece, and it was fun just to mess with. I love that movie. I know that people talk all this shit and say that it was terrible and the writing was terrible and the acting was terrible, but I laugh at that and I'm like, well, clearly you never watched a Godzilla movie, because all the old Godzilla movies are exactly that. I've never watched a Godzilla movie in my life like sitting down going, I want the best acting possible right now. Ever. I've never thought that. I've never thought about the story. I only want one thing. I want to see that dude beating up another big dude and wrecking everything around them. And that's what that movie did, and it was a blast. So I don't know.
No one watches Godzilla films for like character development.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first movie, the first one that came out like 2014, I wasn't crazy about it. I thought it was okay, but it was just kind of too slow. But that one was like going to a metal concert. That one had all the bells and whistles and the loud sounds. Everything about it was just popcorn movie, 100%. It was a blast. I love that. Oh yeah, I have those available. Those Godzilla prints. I definitely have those available. I just need to put up a store page so I can make that accessible for people so they can order it. But everything's been kind of crazy the past couple months. But yeah.
And tag Tom Hutchison, because he'd be all over this too, because he is a huge Godzilla fan.
Well, I worked with the director Michael Dougherty on Krampus, and I did a little drawing recently of Sam from Trick and Treat. So he followed me back on Twitter, and I was like, oh. And it was kind of funny because I'm just sitting there thinking, like, I wonder if I should just send him this. Because it's like, hey, dude, I'm one of the very few that like love the movie. So I did this print. Here you go. But yeah, Tom Hutchinson. Did you say that Tom Hutchinson I should tag him?
Is the the owner and publisher of Big Dog Ink Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So he is a huge Godzilla. I don't even call him a fan. It's a Godzilla nerd, because he knows every single detail about every single movie.
Mm.
At any given time, if you're talking to him, he can pull it out from right beside him. He's got all the movies right there, so he always shows them off.
Mhm.
It's amazing to find that much knowledge of one particular thing in a person like this. So he would love something like this, I know.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, when I make them like available, when I post that, and, like Facebook and everything like that, like feel free to tag
Oh yes.
whoever and or share it. That's totally cool. Yeah, yeah. That's oh,
Oh,
oh
this
boy.
one.
This yeah, this is a heavy one. This one I did last year. This one was a personal piece. I was getting real depressed, and so I just like I was just getting real depressed and like messed up, and I don't know, and so I decided to start like kind of pushing to do some sort of like personal pieces, like get some thoughts out of my head, and I was listening to a lot of music, and I just sat there drawing this. I didn't like plan it out at all, and Simon wanted to color it, and when Simon took it and colored it, he really brought it to this whole other level that I was like, are you kidding me? Like it was just like amplified so much, man. I mean, it's got a weird mix of like Hellraiser. It's got a little bit of the Jacob's Ladder thing. It's like just even Nightmare on Elm Street. It's kind of got this big blend of stuff to it that I was just like, holy shit, yeah, I did that recently for commission. I think that was commission. Yeah, I posted that online like a few months ago.
I have to admit that whenever I first saw that post come up on your feed, because I had already been following you,
Hmm.
and I saw that come up on there, and I had to do a double take on there. I was like, so did he actually have the actual picture there, and then just added some side or what happened?
Yeah.
I really started looking at it, going, that's actually really well done. I mean, that looks exactly like it'd be a movie poster as far as I'm concerned.
Oh man, thank you. Well, it's funny because I really don't do likenesses very well, and I stayed away from them for quite some time ever since the Warriors comic. So that one was like it was specific that the person wanted Wesley Snipes' Blade, and I was like, okay, and I like the Blade movies. Well, maybe not the third one, but I really like the first two a lot, and so I just basically like looked at one of the production shots real quick, the photos of him, and he had that expression. So I just kind of had it on my phone. I'm holding it like looking at my phone, and I'm sitting there drawing it, and I was like, all right, I think I can ink this now. And everything else was just off the top of my head with like, yeah, oh yeah, that one. I don't know. That one's kind of random. I kind of was doing like a bunch of different like I was doing sort of like erotic horror stuff, sort of. I did like that one, and I did another one that was sort of kind of similar to that. It was like a guy, a spaceman, about to get killed by a demonic looking alien naked woman, something. And
Because that's totally different on the wings.
yeah, the wings are like real weird. And that one I think was also just like kind of a random small ink sketch. Again, Simon took it to a whole nother level. He made it look
Yeah.
great, you know. Yeah, I mean, I was messing around. I was kind of just doing my version of Spawn. Like he was just way more like gritty and messed up looking. So yeah, that's I don't know.
Of some of the work that's in here. I mean, there's much more to go through. I mean, like I said, I was going through quite a bit.
Hmm.
And like I had mentioned in the green room, I'm obviously more of a fan of yours than I thought I was, because I have some of your works from back in the day as well,
Hmm.
along with some of your newer stuff too, which is amazing, because going through your stuff, I'm like, I've got it, need it. It's
Wow.
a very gritty style that you have, but it's not the same style with everything that you do. And that's what I think really caught my eye on something like this. And I can see where if you're going to be working together on this project with the techno horror,
Hmm.
and you've got the writing behind it, you've got your gritty style that's on there that you can change up in between the different storyboards.
Hmm.
It seems like it would be amazing to see that, and I can't wait to see it, to be personally honest on that.
Oh well, thank you, man. It really, means a lot. And again, with techno horror, it's something that's definitely, it's something that we set out to do because we wanted to do it. It wasn't like, oh, let's do this and become millionaires right now, selling the movie rights. Got Steven Spielberg on the phone. And none of that. It was like basically just kind of like, let's do some really cool.
Well, it's just fun. That was the whole kind of idea behind it, wasn't it? It was just like that's the thing with horror. Like people always kind of assume that horror is that kind of genre that's gonna scare you and upset you and all that. But at the end of the day, if you're a horror fan, it's that horror is just fun,
right?
Realistically, and that's what we wanted from techno horror. Was it was to be able to, like, I get to write whatever I want. Christian gets to draw whatever he wants. Simon gets to color whatever he wants. It was just the idea of bringing it to a different kind of bringing what we wanted and making it work. And so far it's been working and it's been fun. So yeah, and now we've got a collection coming out soon. So yeah.
Up under their banner, their horror banner with that was amazing because they're starting to make a move. People don't understand how much Scout is really trying to get out there, because when everything kind of slowed down or even stopped at some point within the pandemic series, indies did not. They actually went pencils up in a big way and started working even harder and faster to go ahead and produce as much as they could. And Scout was one of those that did that as well.
Yeah.
So really starting to make a move.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Scout's been like on the rise. They got some incredible stuff happening. Like
every day I see a notification from them saying something new is happening with them. It's crazy.
Yeah. They got the toy line now.
Yeah.
I was bugging Joseph about that. I was like, I have experience in toy design and everything else. Like, so I'm expecting you to hit me up so we can make some techno horror toys. But it's either way. It's like it's great. I've met James. He's the CEO over there. He's he's fantastic, and I know a few of the other guys, and they've been great. They've been really, really great. Excited about everything. I really, honestly, one thing I have to mention here is like I never expected any publisher to be interested in being like, oh yeah, we'll publish a collection of this, especially so quick.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that made my head spin. Like, wait, what?
And wanting to sort of expressing an interest before we've even got enough for a collection as well.
Yeah, it's crazy for me. Like, I can't believe that that's happening. But it's exciting. It's gonna be really cool to see this in that format. So and then we mentioned earlier too is that we have the Lovecraftian book, which is also going to come out through Scout and Black Caravan next year as well. And do you want to tell them more about it? Because I feel like
I mean, simply put, really, it's just I think I put it in the description at one point, was that it's just like a big love letter to Lovecraft. It's just there's 3 short stories, now 4, really just heavily inspired by, like the most classic of his tales. Basically, they're like almost like I don't know. It's like, I don't want to say like sequels, but it's almost like the same. Like that, you got obviously the obvious like Call of Cthulhu. Like it's like someone else going out there and finding him, and it's just all this sort of stuff where it's just that same universe, but a slightly kind of later take on it almost. And then that's kind of like half the book is those short stories and kind of taking our spin on it, and then the other half is just a bunch of fan art. Basically, loads of people have done really nice kind of just like, I don't know, there's so many different types of fan art. There's really dark things, there's really gritty looking things, and then one person's drawn Cthulhu as a toddler with a little scuba kit on and stuff like this, like in a real cartoon style. So there's every kind of aspect is really covered in the fan art kind of thing. It's just a nice little package, so to speak, of just, if you like Lovecraft, you're gonna you can't help but like this. It's got the darkness and the weirdness to it, and then it's also got the kind of slightly odd quirkiness from other fans as well who can take part in it, which we've still got a few spaces left actually in that bonus art section, so we'll be doing a shout out to fill those last sort of spots soon actually as well.
Yeah.
People would be all over that. That is a definite. Now, Christian, are you taking any kind of commissions or what kind of freelance work, anything like that are you doing?
Yeah, I have closed my commission list for the rest of the year because I signed onto 2 different projects that one is going to run me all the way through, I think, until next spring.
Wow.
And yeah, so I'm, and it's through a film company, so I really don't have any time to take anything else on.
Right.
So it's for at least until like maybe next like summer or something like that. My commissions won't be open, but when they do, I'll definitely post about it all over the place and everything like that. This year, I think I did a few. I took on a few commissions, but last year I remember doing commissions at home was better for me than doing them at like conventions themselves, which was, I was kind of pushing more for that. I'd rather do them at home. That way I can make them look as nice as possible.
Right.
Because at conventions it's very tough sometimes because people want to come to the table, ask questions, have conversations, you see friends, and then you just get distracted, and then I just feel like the commission at the show is going to look like crap compared to something I could do at home.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So, but unfortunately I can't actually talk too much about what I'm doing right now because NDAs and they just don't really want to have information out this early. But I think besides the House of Waxwork comic I have coming out, I also there's a story I did for the Electric Black that comes out through Scout.
Yes.
I think next month, which is a very interesting one because it's kind of like a Conan story a little. It's like very, very different. It's not really horror at all.
Right.
Very gritty. And the other thing is a short story that is a horror short story. It's coming out through Top Cow from the Stairway anthology. And that story is called Spirit of 666. And it's written by my friends Kevin Koof and Bob France, and it's very Iron Maiden. It's very, it's during the war, and it's like suddenly there's demons, and then there's these demon hunters that show up. It's crazy, and it's only like I don't know, 6-page story, but it was pretty fun. Simon colored that as well. So I think that one is already out. It might be already out. I'm not sure. So
very cool. That one sounds interesting because you mentioned demons, and of course you got my attention. So that's a definite on there.
Yeah. And that's another thing I particularly love to draw. It's anytime at any point at whatever story or just illustration wise, I like to draw demons in my versions of them and just try to do different weird things with them. Even Magdalena, when I did my versions of them, it's like I had this weird idea that they're so just completely mental that they would just smash their face into the ground and scrape it, and just kind of just not move around and act anything that we would consider normal. Like they would be used to mutilating and punishing themselves all the time. So they actually let me do that shit in the comic, which was crazy. I couldn't believe it because I was like, "What? Really? Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and draw it. Don't complain later.
Now,
So
with everything that you've got going on and everything, Mike wanted to go ahead and remind you, don't forget selling that cool Godzilla print to those that love it.
oh yeah, no, I got plenty. I got plenty. The sad thing is that when I had them initially made late last year, I only wound up doing, I guess, maybe 2 or 3 conventions that I brought them with me. And I was like, well, it'll probably do better. I'll probably sell more, I guess, like in the, following year. And obviously that all went to hell. So print wise, I have plenty of those. I can sign them. I also give away, like, I have like little free stickers that I put package with them as well. So yeah, it's like I'm more than happy to do that. I just got to set up a shop quickly and just find the proper packaging equipment to send everything out, because I'm a little still nervous about the mail stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I ordered 2 shirts from Mondo back in like late July or something, and it's October's almost done, man. I still haven't gotten it. It's coming through the post office, and I keep looking at the tracking. I'm like, oh man, brutal. Like, geez, like these are just T-shirts, So it is what it is, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, at least they're just T-shirts, because I keep getting the horror stories from people that they're ordering original art from artists, and then it comes in and they try to bend it in half and put it in the mailbox. And I'm just cringing whenever I see pictures or hear these stories. I'm like, that's original art. That's not something that can just go, I'll get you another one.
Yeah. I had to order. I had to order another. I had a Soundwave shirt that I purchased online, and I guess it was either stolen or lost or something, and it just annoyed me because I was like, really? That's the one thing they could have shoved in our mailbox. It would have been fine. Like,
Exactly.
and it's like, it said it was accepted. The package was accepted or whatever, and I'm like, not by me. And all I could think was, if I see some dude around my neighborhood wearing a damn shirt, I'm gonna fucking lose it. It annoys me more than anything, So, thank you, Trish.
Yeah, Trish wanted to know what her husband was buying. Don't care. She loves supporting the indie comics and all those who work on them. Trish, that's what it's all about, is the support that's involved. It doesn't always have to be completely and totally financial. If you can help out financially, yes. But use the power of that finger, hit that share button, and get this stuff out. It's very simple, very easy, doesn't take much time. I mean, how many people do we know that love horror? And I know they're not all in here right now tonight. I know there's going to be people watching this later on, because there's some other shows that were going on as well. But why not reach out to them and say, hey, you're really going to like this kind of stuff. This might have that edge that you're looking for. It may be something that they are not looking for at the time, but they may be like, well, you know what? My buddy over here, he's been looking for exactly that. And that's what he's been looking for to finish out his comic series. Or he's a publisher that's looking for something new to, bring underneath there. You never know who you're talking to until you start sharing things out. And that's what I love about the indie community, is it's so much easier to do those kind of things than it is with the mainstream, because we don't have to go through the red tape.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's tons of artists out there that will just completely do it on their own. Like they'll either do it through like crowdfunding, or they just set up an online shop or something, and they have an insane amount of followers, like Patreon, whatever, and they don't even work for Marvel or DC. They don't need to. Like, they really don't. Like, they just have their own following and do their own thing. And I remember having a conversation with someone about that, and it was like, well, it's not to say I'm completely against any of that stuff. I've done it. I do it again. It's freelance. It's work. It's fine. But there's nothing better than living the dream of just doing your own stuff and being able to, pay the bills, while you're doing it. that's living the dream. Like,
Yeah.
whoever does that and pulls that off, it's pretty damn amazing.
Trish said tonight that was the way that it was, going multi-shows at the same time. We have 4 devices going to show support. That's dedication right there. That is what the Indies is all about, is that statement right there. Whenever you go ahead and split yourself 4 different ways to go ahead and support as much as you possibly can. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it's very appreciated. I mean, even just like sharing information, there's always somebody that, see a print, or they'll be interested in something like Technohard. Like, wait, that's totally my thing. Like, I want that because it's like, original, just strange horror. I grew up on the EC Comics reprints when I was younger, and I remember that feeling of, man, I wish there was more of this. I wish there was more horror comics like this. And it really used to drive me crazy because, back then it was so impossible to find. You could go to comic shops and ask, like, do you guys have any horror stuff like that? And I remember, like, the only thing that was always pointed out to me was, oh, there's Faust. And I'm like, well, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I'm looking for something that's more along the lines of like EC Comics, or, Freddy or Jason level horror, something like that. Just like, and again, no hate. I'm not throwing any hate at him. I'm just saying it's not something I wanted to spend money on. And yeah, it just was very, very, very little to none for a very long time. So in our case, we're doing that. We're making that. Hopefully we can, find a bigger audience that is also looking for that too. I know it's a little tricky, but just got to keep doing it. That's it.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about the perseverance and just pouring your passion into what you do. We'll go ahead and push you into the path that you need to go. I mean, that's just as simple as it is.
Mm-hmm.
And once you're on that path, you've got people that are already paying attention. It's just a matter of getting a little more attention as you go along. So a show like this may be a little bit of a push, but those shares are what helps. So if you share this out and more people are involved in this, it's just like being in retail. You ask 100 people for a sale, you may get 1 sale.
Mm-hmm.
That's 1 sale that you get, though. So you ask 300 people, you got 3 sales. You're actually doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So just the numbers game that you play on there, but the more times that you can get 100 people involved, if it's shared out 4 different times, it's 400 people right there. That's 4 sales in just one, grouping of shares. Yeah. It's a very simple mathematic thing to do. It's just a matter of getting everyone to go ahead and hit that share button and see how simple it is to do it, because everybody helps everybody in this industry.
Right.
I know, hugely so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Guys, I could keep you on here all evening and everything. We've been on a little over an hour on this one, but we've been having a blast doing this. I'm definitely going to get y'all back on. That is a have to.
Yeah.
What I would like to do now, though, is if you'll go ahead and let us know where we can find you. But what I would also like to go ahead and throw out there for you to kind of mull over right now is whenever your book, I believe you said March was the Lovecraft love letter be coming out.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. What is it called again? I'm sorry. Like
Provenance of Madness.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So whenever that one comes out, around that time, if I can get y'all back, and then we can go ahead and try to promote that and get more people involved. And also that would give you some time to kind of put the Patreon on pause a little bit to get caught up, and then get more people involved in the Patreon.
Right.
Yeah. We'll have a little bit more to show on the Lovecraft book by then, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's go ahead and start with you, Christian. If you'll go ahead and let us know where we can find you so that everybody can look into what works you've got going on.
All right. Well, probably the easiest way to find me, I would say, is Instagram. I'm Christian_DiBari. You could also find me on Twitter. That's just at Chris DiBari. I kind of use Facebook a little bit, but not as heavy. So I would say it's easier to do Instagram or Twitter if you want to see like my post and anything, any kind of news or anything. yeah, overall, that's where you can find me. Those two places.
Very cool. And what about you, Kiyarn? Where can we find you?
On Instagram, I think just literally at Kiyarn. Like, where I don't know, what is it there?
Okay.
Just that spelling. And same again, if you type that in on Facebook, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one with that name. There may be one other person. Twitter I don't really use, so it's just Facebook and Instagram with just that name on it. But same, I'll be half the time just sharing what Christian's drawn pretty much and all that stuff. But other stuff, but yeah, pictures of my dog, and that's about it really.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate y'all being out here and spending time with us tonight and everything. I'm going to go ahead and drop you backstage for now and go ahead and do my closing statements. I'll be back there shortly, but thank you again.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
Yes.
All right. So we had Christian and Kiyarn up here and got to know a little bit more about them and what they're doing within the indies industry, but also within the horror, basis of everything. Now, I always have a closing statement. Tonight's not going to be any different. I usually try to base it on my show that I have going on, and tonight I'm going to go do that as well. And it's based around community. The reason I use that word is because it actually happened tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and name drop on this one. Trish, thank you very much for providing that to me, because what you did by going ahead and watching and supporting 4 separate shows, 4 separate devices, just to go ahead and get more information out there and more people involved in what's going on, that is phenomenal. That's absolutely phenomenal. That shows the heart and soul of what the indies actually are. So it's all about the community. It's all about building that base of going ahead and saying, I'm going to go ahead and put myself out further than the person in front of me. And not in a way where you're trying to make your name known more so, but just to go ahead and get their name pushed out there more. So again, it's about the community. So as I say on every one of my other shows, I'm going to say it again tonight. One pebble in a pond, you get a ripple. You get enough people throwing those pebbles out there and rocks out there in the pond, like Trish did, and you get the waves of change. So let's go ahead and get those waves of change going. See what we can do in this industry. So again, we will catch you next time, which will be on Tuesday the 20th. I will have Steph Wilson on here. So bring your your questions, and we will have a good time with him. So until then, y'all have a great night. Keep it into y'all.